What's up, everybody? We are on day 114 of our Bible End of Year series, continuing in First Chronicles. We've got some more genealogies today with a little bit of other stuff thrown in. Now, remember, I said yesterday, talking about the genealogies, they are important. They are in the Bible for a reason. They need to be read, and there's something we can get from it. One of the big purposes we can see is the promises of God fulfilled, how God sticks to what he says he's going to do. And we can also see the sovereignty of God working throughout those and how he kind of orchestrates things to go about a certain way. Um, yeah, I am. I'm not a Calvinist. I do believe in free will. A lot of times when you start talking about the sovereignty of God, people automatically assume that you're Calvinist. I am not. So let's jump in. I do think Calvinists are brothers, though. So chapter 4. Judah's sons, Perez, Hezron, Carmi, Hur, and Shobal. Rea, son of Shobal, fathered Jahath, and Jahath fathered Ahumai and Lahad. These were the families of the Zorathites. These were Etam's sons, Jezreel, Ishma, and Idbash, and their sister was named Hezelelponi. um, Penuel fathered Gedor, and Ezer fathered Husha. These were the sons of Hur, Ephrathah, firstborn, and the father of Bethlehem. Asher fathered Tekoa and had two wives, Hela and Nara. Nara bore Ahuzam, Hefer, Timeni, and Hahashtari to him. These were Nara's sons. Hela's sons, Zereth, Zohar, and Ethnan. Koz fathered Anub, Zobeba, and the families of Aharel, son of Haram. Jabez was more honored than his brothers. His mother named him Jabez and said, I gave birth to him in pain. Jabez called out to the God of Israel, if only you would bless me, extend my border, let your hand be with me, and keep me from harm, so that I will not experience pain. And God granted his request. Chelub, brother of Shehua, fathered Meir, who was the father of Eshton. Eshton fathered Beth Rapha, Pasia, and Tehinnah, the father of Ir-Nahash. These were the men of Reka. Kenaz's son, Othniel, and Sariah. Othniel's sons, Hathath and Meonathi. Meonathi fathered Ophrah, and Sariah fathered Joab, the ancestor of those in the Craftsman Valley, for they were craftsmen. The sons of Caleb, son of Jephunneh, Ira, Elah, and Nam. Elah's sons, Kenaz. Jahalel's sons, Zipha, Tiria, and Asariel. Ezra's sons, Jether, Mered, Epher, and Jalon. Mered's wife, Bethiah, gave birth to Miriam, Shammai, and Ishba, the father of Ishtimoa. These were the sons of Pharaoh's daughters, Bithiah. Mered had married her. His Judean wife gave birth to Jared, the father of Gedor, Heber, the father of Soko, and Jekuthiel, the father of Zenoah. The sons of Hodiah's wife, the sister of Nahum, the father of Keilah, the Garmite, and the father of Eshtemoa, the Maccathite. Shimon's son, Amnon, Rena, Benhanan, and Tylon. Ishi's sons, Zoheth and Ben-Zoheth, the sons of Shelah, son of Judah, Er, the father of Likah, Lada, the father of Marashah, the families of the guild of lineman workers at Beth Ashbia, Joachim, the men of Kozeba, and Joash and Saraph, who married Moabites. and returned to Lehem. These names are from ancient records. They were the potters and residents of Netaim and Gedera. They lived there in the service of the king. Simeon's sons, Nemuel, Jamin, Jerub, Zerah, and Shaul. Shaul's sons, his son Shalom, his son Mibsam, and his son Mishma. Mishma's sons, his son Hamuel, his son Zakur, and his son Shemiah. Shimei had 16 sons and 6 daughters, but his brothers did not have many children, so their whole family did not become as numerous as the Judeans. They lived in Beersheba, Moladah, Hazar Shul, Bilhah, Izam, Tolad, Bethuel, Hormah, Ziklag, Beth Markaboth, Hazar Susam, Berthbiri, and Sharaim. These were the cities until David became king. Their villages were Etam, An, Rimmon, Tochin, and Ashan. 5 cities, and all their surrounding villages as far as Baal. These were the settlements, and they kept a genealogical record for themselves. Meshubab, Jamlech, Joshua, son of Amaziah, Joel, Jehu, son of Joshibiah, son of Sariah, son of Asiel, Elianai, Jacobah, Jehosiah, Asiah, Adil, Jezemiel, Beniah, and Ziza, son of Shiphi, son of Alon, son of Jediah, son of Shimri, son of Shemaiah. I really love all these names just back to back to back to back to back, stacking them together. It's really fun to pronounce. Verse 3, or verse 38. Can you imagine if that was only verse 3? Verse 38. These mentioned by name were leaders in their families. Their ancestral houses increased greatly. They went to the entrance of Gedor to the east side of the valley to seek pasture for their flocks. They found rich, good pasture, and the land was broad, peaceful, and quiet, for some Hamites had lived there previously. These who were recorded by name came in the days of King Hezekiah of Judah, attacked the Hamites' tents and the Munites who were found there, and set them apart for destruction, as they are today. Then they settled in their place because there was pasture for their flocks. Now 500 men from these sons of Simeon went with Pelatiah, Neriah, Rephaiah, and Uziel, the descendants of Ishi, as their leaders to Mount Seir. They struck down the remnant of the Amalekites who had escaped, and they still live there today. Chapter 5. These were the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel. He was the firstborn, but his birthright was given to the sons of Joseph, son of Israel, because Reuben defiled his father's bed. He is not listed in the genealogy according to birthright. Although Judah became strong among his brothers and a ruler came from him, the birthright was given to Joseph. The sons of Reuben, Israel's firstborn, Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi, Joel's sons, the sons of Shemaiah, his son Gog, and his son Shimi, his son Micah, his son Rhea, his son Baal, and his son Bera. Bera was leader of the Reubenites. King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria took him into exile. His relatives by their families, as they are recorded in their family records: Jeiel the chief, Zechariah, and Bela son of Azaz, son of Shema, son of Joel. They settled the Aurora as far as Nebu and Baal-meon. They also settled in the east as far as the edge of the desert that extends to the Euphrates River, because their herds had increased in the land of Gilead. During Saul's reign, they waged war against the Hagrites, who were defeated by their power, and they lived in their tents throughout the region east of Gilead. The sons of Gad lived next to them in the land of Bashan, as far as Salecah, Joel the chief, Shaphan the second in command, Janai and Shaphat in Bashan, their relatives according to their ancestral houses, Michael, Meshulam, Sheba, Jorai, Jachan, Zia, and Eber. 7. These were the sons of Abihail, son of Huri, son of Jorah, son of Gilead, son of Michael, son of Jeshiah, son of Jadu, son of Buz. Ahi, son of Abdiel, son of Guni, was head of their ancestral family. They lived in Gilead, in Bashan and its surrounding villages, and throughout the pasturelands of Sharon. All of them were registered in the genealogies during the reigns of Judah's king Jotham and Israel's king Jeroboam. The descendants of Reuben and Gad and half the tribe of Manasseh had 44,760 warriors who could serve in the army, men who carried shield and sword, drew the bow, and were trained for war. They waged war against the Hagrites, Jetur, Naphish, and Nodab. They received help against these enemies because they cried out to God in battle, and the Hagrites and all their allies were handed over to them. He was receptive to their prayer because they trusted him. They captured the Hagrites' livestock, 50,000 of their camels, 250,000 sheep, and 2,000 donkeys, as well as 100,000 people. Many of the Hagrites were killed because it was God's battle, and they lived there in the Hagrites' place until the exile. Verse 23, the descendants of half the tribe of Manasseh settled in the land from Bashan to Baal Hermon, that is Sinner or Mount Hermon. They were numerous. These were the heads of their ancestral families: Ephir, Ishi, Eliel, Azriel, Jeremiah, Hodaviah, and Jadiel. They were valiant warriors, famous men, and heads of their ancestral houses, but they were unfaithful to the God of their ancestors. They prostituted themselves with the gods of the nations God had destroyed before them. So the God of Israel roused the spirit of King Pul, that is Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria, and he took the Reubenites, Gadites, and half the tribe of Manasseh into exile. He took them to Halah, Habor, Hara, and Gozan's river, where they are until today. Chapter 6. Levi's sons, Gershom, Kohath, and Merari. Kohath's sons, Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uziel. Amram's children, Aaron, Moses, and Miriam. Aaron's sons, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. Eleazar fathered Phinehas. Phinehas fathered Abishua. Abishua fathered Buki. Buki fathered Uzai. Uzai fathered Zerahiah. Zerahiah fathered Mariath. Mariath fathered Amariah. Amariah fathered Ahitub. Ahitub fathered Zadok. Zadok fathered Ahimaaz. Ahimaaz fathered Azariah. Azariah fathered Johanan. Johanan fathered Azariah, who served as priest in the temple that Solomon built in Jerusalem. Azariah fathered Amariah. Amariah fathered Ahitub. Ahitub fathered Zadok. Zadok fathered Shalom. Shalom fathered Hilkiah. Hilkiah fathered Azariah. Azariah fathered Sarai. Sarai fathered Jehozadak. Jehozadak went into exile when the Lord sent Judah and Jerusalem into exile at the hands of Nebuchadnezzar. Levi's sons, Gershom, Kohath, and Merari. These are the names of Gershom's sons, Libni and Shimei. Kohath's sons, Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uziel. Merari's sons, Mahli and Mushi. These are the Levites' families according to their fathers. Of Gershon, his son Libni, his son Jehath, his son Zimah, and his son Joah, his son Edu, his son Zerah, and his son Jetheri. Kohath's sons, his son Aminadab, his son Korah, his son Asir, his son Elkanah, his son Ebiasaph, his son Asir, his son Tahath, his son Uriel, his son Uzziah, his son Shaul, Elkanah's sons, Amasi and Ahimath, his sons, Elkanah, his son Zophai, his son Nahath, his son Eliab, his son Jeroham, his son and his son Elkanah, Samuel's sons, his firstborn Joel, his second son Abijah, Merari's sons, Mahil, his son Libni, his son Shimei, his son Uzzah, his son Shemiah, his son Haggiah, and his son Asaiah. There are men David put in charge of the music in the Lord's temple, after the ark came to rest there. They ministered with song in front of the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, until Solomon built the Lord's temple in Jerusalem, and they performed their task according to the regulations given to them. These are the men who served with their sons from the Kohathites: Heman the singer, son of Joel, son of Samuel, son of Elkanah, son of Jeroham, son of Eliel, son of Toah, son of Zuph, son of Elkanah, son of Mahath, son of Amasai, son of Elkanah, son of Joel, son of Azariah, son of Zephaniah, son of Tahath, son of Asir, son of Ebiasaph, son of Korah, son of Issar, son of Kohath, son of Levi, son of Israel. Heman's relatives was Asaph, who stood at his right hand, Asaph, son of Berechiach, that's an interesting one, son of Shimea, son of Michael, son of Basia, son of Malchijah, son of Ethni, son of Zerah, son of Adiah, son of Ethan, son of Zimmah, son of Shimi, son of Jahath, son of Gershom, son of Levi. On the left, the relatives were Merari's sons, Ethan, son of Kishi, son of Abdi, son of Maluk, son of Hashbiah, son of Amaziah, son of Hilkiah, son of Amzi, son of Bani, son of Shemer, son of Mali, son of Mushi, son of Merari, son of Levi. Their relatives, the Levites, were assigned to all the service of the tabernacle, God's temple, but Aaron and his sons did all the work of the most holy place. They presented the offerings on the altar of burnt offerings and on the altar of incense to make atonement for Israel according to all that Moses, the servant of God, had commanded. These are Aaron's sons: his son Eleazar, his son Phinehas, his son Abishua, his son Buki, his son Uzi, his son Zerahiah, his son Meriath, his son Amariah, his son Ahitub, his son Zadok, and his son Ahimaaz. These were the places assigned to Aaron's descendants from the Kohathite family for their settlements and their territory, because the first lot was for them. They were given Hebron in the land of Judah and its surrounding pasture lands, but the fields and settlements around the city were given to Caleb, son of Jephunneh. Aaron's descendants were given Hebron, a city of refuge, Libnah and its pasture lands, Jatir, Eshtemoa and his pasture lands, Hilion and its pasture lands, Dibber and his pasture lands, Ashan and his pasture lands, and Beth Shemesh and its pasture lands. From the tribe of Benjamin they were given Geba and its pasture lands, Elimeth and its pasture lands, and Anathoth and its pasture lands. They had 13 towns in all among their families. The rest of the Kohathites, 10 towns from half the tribe of Manasseh, were assigned by lot. The Gershomites were assigned 13 towns from the tribes of Issachar, Asher, Naphtali, and Manasseh in Bashan according to their families. The Merarites were assigned a lot 12 towns from the tribes of Reuben, Gad, Zebulun according to their families. So the Israelites gave these towns and their pasture lands to the Levites. They assigned by lot the towns named above from the tribes of the descendants Judah, Simeon, and Benjamin. Some of the families of the Kohathites were given towns from the tribe of Ephraim for their territory. Shechem, a city of refuge, with its pasture lands in the hill country of Ephraim, Gezer and its pasture lands, Jokmeam and its pasture lands, Beth Horon and its pasture lands, Aijalon and his pasture lands, and Gath Rimmon and his pasture lands. From half the tribe of Manasseh, Aner and his pasture lands, and Bileam and his pasture lands were given to the rest of the families of the Kohathites. The Gershomites received Golan and Bashan and his pasture lands, and Ashtaroth and his pasture lands from the families of half the tribe of Manasseh. From the tribe of Issachar they received Kedesh and its pasture lands, Debarath and his pasture lands, Ramoth and his pasture lands, Anim and its pasture lands. From the tribe of Asher they received Mashal and its pasture lands, Abdon and its pasture lands, Hukok and its pasture lands. From Rehob and its pasture lands. From the tribe of Naphtali they received Kadesh in Galilee and its pasture lands, Hammon and its pasture lands, and Kiriathaim and its pasture lands. The rest of the Merarites received from the tribe of Zebulun. They received Ramoni and its pasture lands, and Tabor and its pasture lands. From the tribe of Reuben, across the Jordan at Jericho to the east of Jordan, they received Bezer in the desert and its pasture lands, Jazah and its pasture lands, Kedemoth and its pasture lands, and Mephath and its pasture lands. From the tribe of Gad, they received Ramoth in Gilead and its pasture lands, Mahanaim and its pasture lands, Heshbon and its pasture lands, and Jazer and its pasture lands. Okay. That is the reading for today. Again, I just kind of went through it. There's a couple spots I may have stopped, but for the most part, a lot of that is fairly straightforward and pretty continuous. I do think we can still get something out of it. Like I said, it's in the Bible. It's for us today. And that's why we have questions. So we're going to go into our questions. Question 1. Jabez's prayer in chapter 4 seeks God's blessing and protection. How does this brief plea deepen our theological understanding of prayer as an act of dependence on God's sovereign grace? And how might it shape our own prayers? I do think prayer can be, let's say, I think that it's possible for somebody to pray and not be dependent on God if they're doing it just out of like a feeling like they have to, or responsibility or something like that, or it's just something they're going through the motions. I mean, maybe you would say then it's not actually prayer. Okay. But I do think most of the time, genuine prayer shows a dependence on God. You know, you're not going to talk to somebody if you're not needing a relationship or something from them, right? And so that's something I've noticed, even I'll say with myself, that when I see a correlation between when I try to start handling everything on my own, and it's not a conscious decision, but I will try to just start doing things on my own, figuring things out for myself. If I start getting overwhelmed with stuff, I will put a focus on just getting it figured out. And a lot of times my prayer life will start to slip as a result. Even though I'm not like making a conscious decision, like, no, I don't need God. I do think there's a connection between, hey, I've noticed that I've been praying less, and I look at the situations and everything around. Usually it's the other way around. Usually I'll notice like I'm really stressing over stuff, or I have just a lot on my plate, or things like that, and then I'll realize like I haven't really been praying like I need to be. So I do think there's something there. I think that's a heart posture that you can work towards and watch out for. And when it starts to happen, make yourself go back, start praying more. Question 2. The detailed listing of Levi's priestly and musical roles in chapter 6 emphasizes worship. How does the focus challenge us to reflect on the theological significance of corporate worship as a foretaste of God's eternal presence fulfilled in Christ? I do think it's something to be said about the time and effort and resource they put into worship, and just the temple in general is something that we you don't want to dump so much into a church service that it is strictly performative, or um, it's getting away from the purpose of what the service should be. I think that's a no-brainer. We don't want to do that. We also don't want to just throw something together at the last second. I've known people who are um, worship leaders or pastors or leading kids ministry, whatever the ministry was, and they would literally just like, hey, I'm just going to figure it out that morning. And like no thought went into it, no preparation went into it. It was just sitting down, figuring out that morning before service started, and then they did it. And I think that is a dangerous opposite side. We want to make sure that we're putting in our best effort. It's not just what's left over. If something that we're doing for God, we need to do it like we're doing it for God. Um, so that is something I think that we can take from that. But even like going back to some of the other we see with the detail that went into the Ark of the Covenant and the tabernacle, and then that went into Solomon building the temple, and um, there was no expense spared. That showed the value of what that was to them. Question 3. These genealogies written for exiles trace God's faithful remnant. How might this continuity invite us to wrestle with the theological truth that God's covenant promises sustain his people through judgment, pointing to the ultimate restoration in the Messiah? Yeah. Even though Israel was still God's chosen people, and this is, think about this. Israel was in exile. Under several times Israel was in exile, but they're in exile. It probably feels like, excuse me, probably feels like God is done with them, but they are sticking. They're able to see God is sticking with his promise. He didn't promise that there was never going to be any bad. There's never going to be any exile. They were never going to be taken away from the land. They were actually told, they were told pretty sharply that if they stopped following God, these things would happen. But God is still keeping his promise, and he's still going to bring them back. And they'll see this over and over again. God keeps his promise to Israel. And that's something, even though those promises may not be for us today, we can still see, we still serve that God that keeps his promises. We can see the character of God in this. That yes, there may be difficult things that come up, and yes, there may be bad situations or things that are hard to deal with, but that doesn't mean that God is not there with us. And that is something that we can see through these chapters. Yeah. So that is it for today. Appreciate everyone watching and listening up to this point. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I enjoy seeing people's comments and interacting when I am able to. If this has been a blessing to you, don't forget to spread the word. Word of mouth is the top way that podcast spreads. So you can share it with somebody else and they can start watching as well, get something out of it, and maybe it can be a blessing to them as well. So don't forget to come back tomorrow. We're continuing in First Chronicles. It is going to be there's going to be some more genealogies and then some other stuff as well. And we're kind of getting into the next, I guess, like section of Chronicles or First Chronicles. But it's good stuff. It's all good stuff. So come back tomorrow and see you then. God bless.